You say, what is up, everybody?
What is up, everybody?
Say, Grace Report is here.
Grace Report is here.
Dropping some knowledge.
Dropping some knowledge.
On the global economy.
On global economy.
And how it expands. And how it expands.
How it expands.
Say, you better pay attention.
You better pay attention.
Or else.
Or else.
And shake your finger like this.
Shake your finger like this.
Let's try this again. What is up, everybody? Mr. Apertus here. Welcome to Unit 5, Part 2B, which is Global Economy Expands. So in the first part of this 2A was about the Industrial Revolution starting, and this is how the Industrial Revolution really impacts this global economy from 1750 to 1900. And in the past time period, 1450 to 1750, in Unit 4, we saw the beginnings of this global economy, where European exploration opens up the Americas to trade, as well as really brings in a lot of Asian, Southeast Asian, South Asian, and East Asian markets into this global economy, where we see a lot of exchange of ideas and products going on. So this is kind of how that progression from 1450 to 1750 continues and expands as a result of the Industrial Revolution. So a little bit of what we would call a continuity here. Also, we'll see some changes as a result of the Industrial Revolution. And I'm throwing those terms, continuity and change, out as we get ready to start talking more about that long essay question on continuity and changes. So, first part here is the spread of the Industrial Revolution. We talked in the last video about how the Industrial Revolution really gets going in Britain, in Great Britain, which is right here. And what we see early, or the mid to late 1800s, is the spread of the Industrial Revolution. And this process of industrializing really progresses throughout Western Europe and really kind of hits the eastern part, the western part of Russia right here by the 1880s. It also, this Industrial Revolution spreads to the United States. So really by the mid to late 1800s, a lot of the countries here in Western Europe are attempting to industrialize, and generally relatively successfully at a different rate. So France, Germany, are going to be relatively successful. Russia's going to have a little trouble trying to keep up, which we'll get to in part 3 of this unit number 5. So just kind of keep in mind that other areas are industrializing. Some areas are going to be left out of this. I want you to really don't forget here mentally that there are other areas, as Eurocentric as the Industrial Revolution seems. They're still focused in the Middle East and South Asia, and this area, these two areas, they're still manufacturing things. South Asia has been manufacturing cotton products for thousands of years, which goes back to that southernization idea where the Europeans have been trying to get to this area during the Age of Exploration. Also in China, they're still manufacturing there. They're still manufacturing silk and porcelain. And we also see manufacturing going on in the Ottoman Empire here. So we have the Mughal Empire, the Ottoman Empire, and Manchu China are trying to manufacture, but really they're losing out on their global share. The Europeans are kind of coming in, and the United States are kind of coming in and taking over and dominating the market. Because before, the Mughal Empire could produce cotton and sell their cotton products and make a profit, but now we have factories up here that are producing cotton textiles at such an crazy, incredible pace that it is dropping that price of textiles, which makes it almost impossible for the Mughal Empire to compete with that. So again, let me say that just so we're clear. The factories are making it so the cotton products are so much cheaper because you can produce so much more of it, that the Mughal Empire, which doesn't have these factories, can't keep up. So they're losing out on their global share, but they are still manufacturing. Also, these industrialists, these people who are running these factories, building these factories throughout Western Europe and the United States, need raw materials for their factories. Europe is not a wealth of raw materials and an infinite amount of materials. You need things for your factory. So for example, you need cotton. Before, in Britain, we were getting a lot of our cotton from the Americas. But remember, by the 1800s, those American colonies have gained their independence. So that cotton supply isn't a mercantilist exchange anymore where it's just automatically coming to Britain. So they need to find new sources of that. They also need to find sources of rubber. And these are rubber trees, and the sap that's coming out is rubber trees. And so we need that supply of rubber. We also need sugar, which is a supply of something that we've always needed for food and is a very profitable thing. So these industrialists who are working in these factories are really seeking out these raw materials for the factories. And what it's going to lead to is areas around the world who are going to start specializing in producing these resources, and really these resources alone, where they'll take the profits from the cotton, for example, in India, and they will, after selling them to the British, and then they will try and buy finished goods from the British. This should sound very familiar to mercantilism from the previous time period. So we do see this kind of continuation where cotton is being produced, it's being specialized in India, for example, and it's being sold to the British. And then after it's sold to the British, they use that money to buy finished products from the British. But we see this throughout many regions who are going to specialize in really what we kind of call single crop economies, where they really focus their economy on one crop. Also, there's a lot of materials. So commodities, these commodities are things, very specialized goods that are very much desired. So commodities like cotton are going to give countries like Britain and merchants in Britain an advantage. So if you have already set up an area here to trade in India, like the East India Stock Company and the East India Trade Company, we're going to see that they are going to be able to bring these goods to Britain, and then the British merchants are going to have an advantage over other areas because they've already set up shop there. Also, there's going to be an increased demand for metals and gold and silver and diamonds in certain areas. So we're going to see the Europeans going out and try to develop and enhance these mining areas. Because gold and silver and diamonds are going to be used as a currency, we need more of those mining centers, they say. So as we kind of explore and go out, for example, in South Africa here, you can kind of see the gold mining centers, and there's coal. You're also going to see iron. And these things are going to be a way for the Europeans, especially the British here, to kind of get a foothold into these areas, develop mining centers, bring those mining products back to their country to increase their wealth. So we're going to see gold, silver, and diamonds. Also, metals that would be considered limited, copper, for example, iron, things that are going to be used in our factories. And number 3 here, to facilitate all of this, to facilitate the investments and the businesses and whatnot, we're going to see financial institutions are going to expand from the previous time period. So in the previous time period, we had these stock companies, we had monopolies that are going to exist. We're going to see this kind of increase even more. And the main system, economic system that's going to be developed is what is called capitalism, where you invest capital, which is money, into a business to try and make as much money back as possible off that business. So you invest in a business to make money, which that idea existed in the previous time period with these joint stock companies. This system of capitalism is going to be really developed and written about by a guy named Adam Smith, who writes about something called laissez-faire, which is a rough translation in France, means hands off. And the concept in capitalism is that the government should not have any involvement in businesses. They shouldn't tell businesses what to do. They shouldn't control what businesses do. And businesses should be able to decide how much to pay their workers, what their factory conditions are like, what to produce, how much to charge for what they produce. All that stuff should be decided by the business, and the government's job is to allow freedom, hands-off, free market, for these businesses. And the whole goal in capitalism and a free market economy is supply and demand. As supply goes up, demand goes down, and the price goes up. And in an ideal supply and demand system, you need to find the best price to make as much money as possible, which is generally where this supply and demand intersects. Also, there's another guy named John Stuart Mill who believed in utilitarianism, which is the idea that the economy and society itself must focus on the greatest good and happiness for the most people. Very John Locke Enlightenment-esque, that what's going on in society and the laws that are passed and the economy itself needs to focus on what is the greatest good for the greatest number of people. And in his mind, the factory system really isn't providing the greatest good and happiness for the greatest amount of people. It's providing the greatest good for the factory owners and the managers, but that's about it. So it kind of goes against capitalism in that sense. Also, we're going to see these huge, as this financial capitalism system kind of takes off, and we see these huge business owners and these monopoly businesses take off. For example, in the United States, we see Rockefeller and Carnegie and these huge business tycoons. We see a large transnational business increase. Transnational means across. Trans is across something. National. So these are businesses that are not just located in one country. An example here is there's a U.S.-based company called the United Fruit Company, which mainly produces bananas, and they are going to set up and buy land throughout all of Central America here for bananas. So you'll see here in Guatemala, in Honduras, in Costa Rica, down here in Panama, they buy up land. Dominican Republic, they buy up this land. So this company itself, which is based in the United States, really has its kind of tentacles all throughout Latin America. And when they buy up this land and they develop this land for banana production, they also influence the governments there. So these businesses gain wealth, gain power, and then sell their bananas, for example, the United Fruit Company, throughout the world. So it makes them a huge amount of money for something as simple as bananas that you wouldn't really think would be such a hugely profitable thing, but is. Lastly, there are going to be financial instruments to help these businesses grow. There are going to be stock markets that are set up throughout the world. The stock market, the main stock market in the United States is the New York Stock Exchange, but we also see stock markets that are going to be created in Great Britain, Germany, eventually in China. And this is a look at where stock markets are set up today. And what this allows is for you to invest in these businesses to make money off of it. You could invest, for example, in the United Fruit Company. And if the United Fruit Company does well and makes money, you make money. But those investments help these businesses grow and help them gain more money. So that's what we got. As always, any questions, write it down. Let me know in class. I'll talk to you later.